Radio Vision Network, Morning Coffee, Fridays with Carole. I'm Carole Moore, and I'm thrilled to be here today. We have a wonderful guest, and if you have ever owned a dog or ever knew anyone who owned a dog, you're going to love this show, because this is Ron Aiello, and he is the president of the U.S. War Dogs Association, and we're going to talk about the dogs who have saved lives for all of our soldiers and sailors over time. So Ron, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, as you mentioned, I'm president of the United States War Dogs Association, and I am a Marine who served in Vietnam as one of the first of 30 Marine Scout Dog teams that were deployed in 1966, along with my dog Stormy.
Now, what happened to Stormy when your deployment was over? How does that transcend?
After I did my tour in Vietnam, a new handler who had trained at Fort Benning, Georgia, with a training dog came to Vietnam. There were 30 of them, and they were our replacements. And the day before they came in, we were told they would be coming in, and then they told us to pack up our clothes that we're leaving in a couple hours. And the new handlers came in. I got to meet the handler who was going to take over for me for Stormy. I sat down with him for maybe about 2 hours and told him everything I could about Stormy, her likes, her dislikes, how she alerted, and so forth. Then I stood up, shook his hand, and wished him well, and I never saw her again.
And that is really tough. I mean, I have sat on the floor with my dogs of 13, 14 years and watched them give up their last breath, and just a member of the family. There's no two ways to say it. It's like having a child with 4 legs and a tail. So when you got Stormy and you started this program, how old was she?
She was, when I met her at Fort Benning, Georgia, she was 18 months old.
That young?
Right. Mm-hmm. She was 18 months old. And the dogs in Vietnam, they were donated to the military. These were family dogs that people felt so strong about the war that they actually donated their dogs to the cause. So she was donated, and I forget the family. It was out of Ohio. I remember that. So we met when she was 18 months old, and we trained for the next 3 months at Fort Benning, Georgia. The Army trained us because the Marine Corps did not have a training program at that time. So we trained for 3 months, day and night training. Then we were put on C-130 planes. And now this is winter. It was like the end of February, and we arrived in the beginning of March. So we went from cold weather to the 110-degree weather. So when we got to Vietnam, the first thing we had to do was acclimatize the dogs and be very careful to get them adjusted to that high heat. And that took about 20 days. So we trained each day, but just a little bit. And each day we went a little further. We'd march out a half a mile, then we'd do a mile, then a mile and a half, and we just kept where we could go out 5 miles and back, and the dog was fine. Yeah, as long as we gave the dog plenty of water to keep the dog cool.
Yeah.
At that point, then the word was passed out to the Marine Corps that scout dogs are ready to be deployed. And I don't know if, because my name starts with an A, I was one of the first to be deployed, which was a great experience as a young guy. And we trained for 3 months, and it was all training, and now we're into the real war. It's real bullets, real bombs going off. And of course you question yourself, does the training really work? And I can tell you, it definitely does work.
How do the dogs handle I know my lab, well, I'm a firearm instructor, and I teach rifle, pistol, and shotgun, and my lab does not like at all the sound of thunder or the sound of a shotgun. So how do you acclimate dogs to the sound and the vibrations of the sounds?
Well, when they decide to use a specific dog that has been donated, they vet the dog. These are some of the traits they look for. Does the dog react badly to sound? And then when you're training and you're firing a weapon and your dog does get a little nervous, you can calm your dog down. If the dog barks, you would just give a command, no, each time. Good girl. No, good girl. And she would calm it down. So eventually they would just get used to the sound. I got to the point with my dog where I could probably fire a rifle, full automatic, and she would just sit by my side and just totally ignore it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a particular type of dog that is used in the U.S. war dog programs?
There are 3 breeds of dogs: the German Shepherd, the Belgian Malinois, and the Labrador Retriever. They're the 3 dogs that are used today in the military.
Now, I know about the German Shepherds, and of course I would worry with them with the hip dysplasia because of inbreeding over the years. So I'm sure they have to look for dogs with strong hips. And I know the Labrador Retrievers, and I presume you would use the black or the brown Labradors because of their color and being able to camouflage.
Usually they go with the black.
Usually the black.
Yeah.
But now tell me about that middle dog that you mentioned. I don't think I've ever
The
heard
Belgian
of it.
Malinois, they started that, used that dog after Vietnam. During Vietnam, all branches of the military used German Shepherds, and the Army had special tracker teams where they used the black labs. After Vietnam, they changed the whole training program, and they decided to use the Belgian Malinois. Now it's a smaller dog. Most of them are smaller, thinner, shorter hair, very fast. If you've seen the movie Max that came out this past year
I don't think I
about
saw
a dog that served in Iraq.
Oh, well, I'll have to go
Afghanistan.
look that up.
They used Belgian Malinois for that.
Wow.
And if you watch the movie, you can see how fast they run. You could take a German Shepherd that's 95 pounds and hit target and knock it down because it's a large dog. And you take the smaller Belgian Malinois that could be maybe 75 pounds or 70 pounds and could hit it just as hard because of the speed it can build up. So, and they're very good at smelling and alerting, just like the German Shepherd.
Very good.
Now, the Labrador Retriever, they use those for specialized explosive detection.
So they're bomb sniffers.
They're bomb sniffing. They
Okay.
started a whole new program a number of years ago at Fort Leonard Wood, and it was all black labs.
Oh,
And they're a calmer dog.
yeah.
They can work with the troops a lot easier because they are calm. They're not that aggressive. Now, the Belgian Malinois and the German Shepherd, they're also trained as attack dogs. So if you're in combat and you do need that help, you can give a command for the dog to attack and fight with you. But
Very good.
of course, the lab you can't really do that
Right,
with.
right. My lab is what I
they're-
call my
they're
gentle.
labs.
They're like he's my gentle giant
Yes.
because I can sit him in a chicken pen with a baby bunch of 45 baby chicks, and they're pulling at his whiskers and they're drinking the slobber off his tongue, and he doesn't do a darn thing. And I say to those chickens, you have no idea how close to death you really are. So, yes, but they're very good sniffers.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's wonderful. What we're going to talk a little bit more when we come back from break. So, folks, come on back. Go call your friends and neighbors who all have dogs and learn all about our U.S. war dogs. And we'll be right back with Radio Vision Network, Morning Coffee, Friday with Carole.
When it's time for Jersey Mike's to make a really great sub, this is what we do. It's what we've been doing. It's what we've always done. It's what we'll always do. So what are you doing? Jersey Mike's. Be a sub above.
Today's show has been sponsored by More Than Gifts. Come see our new location in Marlton, New Jersey. Not just gifts, but more.
Today's show was brought to you by Alicia Kelly of White Horse RV Center in Williamstown, New Jersey. Alicia is your RV expert. Contact Alicia at alicia@whitehorserv.com or give her a call at 856-262-1717, extension 203. When you think of RV, think Alicia Kelly.
When it's time for Jersey Mike's to give a sub some sizzle, this is the way. the way it's always been. The way it always should be. The way it always will be. Because that's just the way it's supposed to be. Jersey Mike's. Be a sub above.
Extra Innings is the nation's premier indoor baseball and softball training center, featuring indoor batting cages, 7 multi-use tunnels, and training rooms. Extra Innings can provide professional instruction, private and group lessons, and the best year-round clinics. Along with a nationally recognized pro shop that features the latest and widest selection of equipment and apparel, our experienced staff can provide you with the right instruction and help you find the best equipment for your ability and budget. Extra Innings, where the game never ends.
Today's show has been sponsored by Farmers Insurance in Voorhees, New Jersey. To protect your assets and the people you love, call Mike Skoranek, your local Farmers Insurance agent, at 856-336-2553.
We are farmers. Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum.
Radio Vision Network is back now with Morning Coffee with Carole on Fridays. And we have Ron Iola here talking about the U.S. War Dogs. So he's going to give us a little more, and you can just call your friends and tell them to tune in to Radio Vision Network. We are on live stream here, and it doesn't cost anything. You don't have to have a cable hookup. It's the Wave of the Future live stream, and here we are with Ron. Tell us some more about some stories about your dogs.
Well, I guess after we got to Vietnam, my first patrol was to lead a platoon of Marines into an area, a valley, and search 2 villages. So I would go in first with my dog Stormy, and each house, and when I say a house, it's not a house that we think of. It's bamboo and straw and some tin thrown together. Most of it's all open, with maybe one little room in the back that's kind of enclosed where everybody sleeps on the floor. That's a house to them. And I would go in with Stormy and search the house, make sure there were no hidden weapons, there was no tunnels underneath the house. And once I searched it, I would come out, Stormy and I'd tell the Marines behind me, all clear. So now they can go into that house and physically check things out without worrying about an explosive going off. So we went through the first village, and everything was clear. It was perfect. No problems. So I'm leading the patrol down a pathway to the second village. And at the end of the pathway, I come into a clearing. Stormy and I step into the clearing. We took about 2 steps. Stormy stopped, looked up to the right flank. She gave me an alert. I knelt down by her side. That's a normal thing to do. When the dog alerts, you kneel down by the dog's side, you put your arm on your dog, you almost become one person at that time, one entity. And I would say, "What do you see, girl? What do you see, girl?" And I would be trying to decipher what she's telling me. But before I even got to that point, I was only halfway down. The sniper shot out at a tree from the right flank, and the bullet went over my head because I had knelt down. If I was still standing up, I probably would have been wounded or killed. So at that point, there was a mound of dirt over to our left flank, and the 2 of us, Stormy and I, just ran as fast as we could, jumped over the mound of dirt, got behind it for protection. Marines came in right behind me, and they started firing into the trees, and they killed the sniper. And it was funny looking back on it, because as I'm firing my weapon, I'm thinking, and I'm kind of smiling inside myself, saying, wow, it does really work. The training does really work. And that was my first experience at it. And Stormy did a fantastic job. She alerted, saved lives that day. And of course, all the Marines then, wanted to come around and pet Stormy and give her treats and everything, because they realized that she could really save their lives.
Wow. And when these dogs are finished their service, do they usually do one term, 1 tour, 2 tours? How long from the time, you said you got Stormy when she was about 18 months old, and so has she been retired? Was she killed in combat? Did you ever hear the story of where she went from there?
I met 3 of her handlers who had her after I left. They were there. So I left in 1967. The last handler that I met was still over there in 1970, July 1970, and he actually gave me a photo of the two of them. And the photo was her. She had alerted to an explosive in a bunker. It was hidden explosives in a bunker. So the photo is the two of them looking into the bunker. And it was great to see that after all those years, she was still over there saving lives.
Absolutely.
And she was full grown. She went from a little 65-pound dog to she was probably about 80 pounds at that point. Looked very healthy. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened to her. CNN did a special back in 2000, and I was part of that special, so they tried to find out what happened to Stormy, but all the records that did come back were totally incorrect. So I would like to think if she died over there, she died in combat.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good soldier.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The average time period that a U.S. war dog is kept in service, do you know?
That could be probably around 6-7 years.
6-7 years. And
Right.
then what happens to them? They're still able, they're not wounded, they're not too old, they're still in the prime of their life. What happens to them overseas?
The dogs, whenever the dogs go into a combat situation, they always come back home to their home base, whether it's in the United States or it could be Germany, South Korea, Japan, to the military base, because the dog is part of that military base. That's where the dog's from. So what they did in November 2000, they passed a bill. It was called Robbie's Law. And that set up a retirement plan and an adoption program for military dogs. Prior to that, they would just euthanize the dog when it couldn't work any longer. So they did set up the program, works very well. The dogs usually retire, they're 9-10 years old when they retire. The first person who can adopt a dog, of course, is the handler.
That's good.
They offer it to
First
the
priority.
handler. Sometimes the handler can't because maybe they have another dog now.
Right.
And they're going to
Right.
be redeployed. So they can't be back home to take care of the dog. So they might try getting another dog handler or someone in the military to adopt the dog. If not, they have at Lackland Air Force Base, where the adoption process is in San Antonio, Texas, they probably have a list of 2,000-3,000 people, families, waiting to adopt these dogs.
Well, this is
Yeah.
a great way to end the show. It's not the end for these dogs. It's up to you to go up to U.S. War Dog Association. Learn more about these wonderful creatures that God has given us, 4 legs and a tail, that have saved so many thousands of lives, especially our soldiers. And go on Ron's website and www.US War Dog Association. Learn more, tell your friends, and thank you so much for coming out today. And the rest of you, tune in again to Radio Vision Network and Morning Coffee Fridays with Carole. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.